Before entering Parliament, I was a union secretary representing office workers in the private sector, and most of the people I represented were pretty low paid and really depended on the award system to set minimum terms and conditions for their employment. But I also had a lot of contact with workers in the area I represented who weren't members of our union. There were hundreds of thousands of them, just like there are hundreds of thousands of shop assistants and cleaners and security guards and labourers who aren't members of any union. And these are the people, the vast army of invisible workers throughout Australia, who are most threatened by John Howard's industrial relations legislation, WorkChoices, because they depend on a fair system of labour market regulation to give them a fair go at work, to give them some rights. And John Howard has effectively taken away almost all their rights. They can no longer pursue an unfair dismissal claim if they're sacked unfairly. They've effectively lost protection for penalty rates and a whole range of other conditions that previously people have taken for granted. The employer has got the capacity to impose a new contract on them, an Australian workplace agreement, where the employer basically decides what's going to be in it. And the choice for that worker is take the job with these terms and conditions or out the door. Now, there are some members of unions, some workers who've got a bit of industrial muscle, who've got some negotiating power, some people with high skills who'll still do okay because they're in demand and employers, in effect, are bidding for them. But most Australian workers aren't in that position. Most of them don't have much power at work. Most of them are very dependent on a regulatory system that gives them some protection. John Howard's getting rid of that. So forget about penalty rates on weekends, forget about penalty rates for overtime, in some cases forget about even being paid for overtime, and watch your hourly rate of pay gradually be whittled down. So my message to Mr. Howard is, think again. This is unfair what you're doing. It's unfair for Australian workers generally, but particularly for the kind of workers that I used to represent, and I'm proud to represent in Parliament, putting forward the view of that army of people who are just ordinary battling workers doing a hard job, a difficult job as well as they can, and who don't want to see their already fairly modest wages and conditions go backwards.